best bets a little bit later this afternoon. The Jays back in action with the Giants in town. Giants, they've got a winning record. You got the Yankees a lot down the stretch. You got the Tigers coming up. They're the top team in the American League. It's going to be go time for the Jays right out of the gate. But I like that. Like, don't ease into it. You're at home. If you're a pace car, if you're a really good team, it doesn't matter who you're playing. You're expected to pick up wins. They're going to have to do that.
And especially the fact that, like, it's the Yankees and the Sox, and they're right on your tail. It's like there's no time to be complacent. It's not like you're going into this thing with, like, a 5, 6, 7 game lead, and then you can get complacent and all of a sudden they make up ground. It's like they are right there, and you got to get going right out of the gate. And I think that applies to Vladdy maybe more than anyone on the roster, where sitting at 12 home runs, like he's got to be that big, powerful bat that people game plan around. And right now, it's not the case, but it doesn't get exposed as much because the team is playing great around him.
Yeah, he's absolutely, man. He's been very lucky. Like, if this team was on pace for 80 wins, 75 wins, and he had 12 home runs, it would be nasty. It would be loud. And now it's more, I think people are just pointing out the obvious, which is justified, that his numbers should be better. He has to be better, but he still can be better, and you have faith in that because you've seen it so often, and he's still so young. But ultimately, if you're a fan, really you care about team success. I mean, that's, I think, the lesson we've learned from the Core 4 era. Like, who cares about the Core 4 anymore? How about win something in the playoffs? Like, that's what Maple Leaf fans want. They don't want Matthews to just win Rockets and Marner to get sulky votes and all that. It's the Maple Leafs need team success, and the same thing applies with the Blue Jays.
Well, they get impatient, right?
Yeah.
Fans get impatient. They're like, those individual accolades are great, but now we want to go on a run. We want to have fun. And you see it in every market.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly what fandom's all about. And ultimately, they both have to mesh together. That's the thing. You need the individual success from your best players in order for them to really have ultimate team success. And I think that's where the Vladdy conversation ultimately collides with team success is, like, if it's going to really take off in the future, they've both got to pop. Like, there's just no way they're going to be a World Series contending team with Vladdy being a good hitter. Like, that it can't happen. He's got to be great. He's got to be, like last year, by the end of the year, he's one of the 7 or 8 best bats in baseball. And there were times where he was legitimately the most dangerous at bat in baseball. Like, he was as tough as anybody to get out. You knew he was going to register hits. You knew he was going to produce runs. And that's got to be revived. And if it does, and you coincide that or marry that with a team that's, showing depth and showing fundamentals and playing aggressively like they have all year, that's going to go a long way.
Yeah, and it could be one of those things where, like Jim Duquette mentioned, by the end of the season, maybe the numbers are what they're supposed to be for Vladdy, but maybe on the lower side of what they're supposed to be. Like, there's always that range, right? Like, this is a great year, this is a good year. That's a great question, Struddy, because he's at 12 home runs right now. I can't imagine he gets to 40, but he can get somewhere into the mid-30s, I would think, or pushing up on 40.
He's got to be able to. He's got to double his current home run production. Like, by the end of the year, you got to have 24 or 25 minimum. Like,
that's minimum. That's just doing what you did,
yes.
Right? Like, I think he's got to do what he did, plus make up some ground based on what you didn't do in the first half.
He's very capable of doing that. Like, a guy like him, you get hot, you can hit 12 home runs in a month. Like, no problem. You get red hot. You have a couple of 2 home run games, and all of a sudden the bat's starting to heat up. Yeah, I agree. I think the total's got to be 25 is the start. Like, you got to have 25 in the bank by the end of the year.
But just like we said with the Leafs, right? Like, fans don't necessarily. No one throws a parade for 60 goals. No one throws a parade for Selke votes. They throw parades for teams that win. Mm-hmm. So, as long as Vladdy's pulling his weight and the team wins, we're not really gonna. I don't know. We're not gonna disparage it. The team is winning. It really gets exposed if the team, comes out in the second half here and doesn't win, and all of a sudden it's like we're a month down the road and they're 5 games back of the Yankees, and it's like, well, you're not climbing out of that unless Vladdy goes on a heater now.
But look at Aaron Judge, what he's doing in New York. He's hitting, and the team has won quite a bit with him there.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's what's going to be needed, and ultimately they need. I think the Blue Jays are in a position here, and Keegan was talking about it yesterday, where you need to be aggressive and be greedy and be thinking of running away with the division. You know, don't just hold on with a two-game lead over the Yankees. You know, chase 93 wins, 94, 95 wins. Try to really secure your spot, and not only by winning the division, but maybe your top 2 seed in the American League. Then you avoid the wild card round altogether. I mean, that's where Vladdy factors in. Like, everything just continues to move. The way you add another 2 or 3 wins to the win column is Guerrero can single-handedly do it, and Bichette can do it. And if you get Varsho back and Santander back, all of this, you know, could be available to the Blue Jays. And if it all comes together, you're going to have a special, you know, stretch run here through August and into September. All right, Week 7 of the CFL beginning tonight, and Chad Kelly's still not ready to return. It sounded like he's real close. The Argos are in Montreal. They're a massive underdog. I think a double-digit dog. I think 10.5 on FanDuel, I believe. Alouettes 3-2. They've off to a pretty good start. The East, seemingly like every other year, is more watered down than the West. Here's our CFL, NFL reporter and insider. Here's Dave Naylor. How you doing, Nail Gun?
Hey, Brian. You mentioned the West's dominance over the East in the CFL. This has been one of these things that I always get asked about, like why? And I have no answer. I've tried to answer it a million times. There was a period in like the last 4 or 5 years where, like, for a year, remember when the Golden State Warriors were just rocket, like just steamrolling everybody? Like, there were complaints that the NBA had become non-competitive because of the Golden State Warriors, right? Around that time, for about a year and a half, the West had a higher win percentage against the East in the CFL than the Golden State Warriors did in the NBA.
Wow.
I can't, and I can tell you why Golden State had that win percentage. I can't tell you why CFL West did.
I'm not sure either, and yet you get to the Grey Cup, and, you know, the Argos would sneak in a win, and, you know, it would obviously, you know, you get to a one-game playoff, and anything can happen. And even in the West, with that being the case, like the depth, it seems like Winnipeg has just been the pace car for so long. But you look at the Argos, and, you know, there's been a lot of discussion about how many guys they've lost, and especially on the defensive side of things. And they're 1-4. They're in tough. You know, they're waiting for Kelly to return. As we said, the East, it does not appear as if anyone's going to run away with this. It's still possible. It's early in the season. But what do you think the Argos are thinking right now? Like, what is a reasonable expectation for them the rest of the way? And do you think they can get to a point in the season where they feel comfortable they can and will make the playoffs?
You know, I think we're really on the Chad Kelly train here. And, you know, from my latest information at the start of the week was, you know, Chad Kelly was, you know, running Skelly, but he still wasn't running team drills. So I'm not sure it's like that close. It may still be a little while away, you know, based on what he's doing in practice. And look, this is kind of deja vu for the Argos, right? Because they missed Kelly for half the season last year because of the suspension. But here's the difference. And Nick Arbuckle, you know, basically was the guy last year, like he has been this year. Here's the difference. Last year, their defense was playing pretty well, especially after the first month of the season. And it was also a scoring defense. You know, they were getting like a pick six or a fumble recovery, forced fumble deep in territory. They're creating turnovers in short field. So there's a lot of complementary football that the defense was providing to pick up an offense that wasn't really in sync. Same thing on special teams. I mean, Janarian Grant was a machine last year, you know, in terms of giving the Argos field position. So, you know, I mean, the definition of complementary football is basically when one side of the ball is not doing its job, the other side will pick it up and compensate. They were getting that last year when Chad Kelly was out. They're not getting it this year. That's the difference between last year's Argos without Kelly and this year.